Your dreams aren't big enough, if they don't scare you, if they don't keep you up at night, if they don't motivate you when you don't feel like it, they don't get you out of bed, they're not big enough.
Facts.
Your dreams should be so big, so astronomical, so large that it should just scare you into action.
Facts.
You should be wanting to chase after it every single day.
That's facts.
Hello, everybody. You have tuned in to the Facts Podcast. That's faith, action, culture, truth, and solidarity. I am Jamonte Banks, one of your co-hosts.
Peace, everybody. What's going on? This is Cedric Scott Jr. We're back for another one. Jamonte, I'm ready. I heard that this is going to be something serious. I think we actually, not only have one guest here, but we actually have a strong power couple duo that we are talking to. So I'm not even trying to waste any more time. Let's just get to it. Let's do a little intro and jump into it, man.
All right, so I'll do a brief introduction and then I will hand it over to our wonderful guest. So we have on the call Mr. and Mrs. Green, Mylira. They are a power couple. They've been married for how long now, Mylira?
6 years, going on
6 years,
7.
Going on 7 now. Mylira is like an author. She's a clinical social worker. She's a speaking enthusiast. She's an advocator. She's doing all these things right now, y'all. And when we tune into our podcast, we try to find guests who embody our pillars. And I could not put her into one pillar. She embodies every single acronym because she's about that life. And we just want to give you an opportunity to just kind of share your story, whatever you want to share. We're ready to listen, and we will kind of probe the questions as we follow along, okay?
Okay, well, first off, thank you for having me and allowing me to bring my king along as well. Because
Absolutely.
again, we want to show people that marriage can work in 2020. A lot of people feel like marriages fell apart, but ours actually got closer. So I'm so blessed to be able to do this with my king. And the one thing that we talk about is how can you have a healthy marriage after both of you have experienced trauma, and then you have small traumas in your marriage as a result of your separate traumas. So the woman that Jamonte talked about so wonderfully was not always this girl. I am literally a product of my pain. That's really what became my purpose. So when I'm talking to people, you're listening to the 3-year-old girl that was exposed to sexual experiences by family members. When I'm talking to people, you're hearing that girl that got joked from 3rd grade to 7th grade about my sexuality, and I didn't even know what being gay was just because people introduced me to stuff. You're looking at a girl that thought that the only thing I could give the world was my body because I was too big to be plain, but I was big enough to be, the other words. So who I am is a product of all of those experiences. And up until recently, I really didn't realize how much of a gift that pain was. But coming through our marriage, I still carried that pain with me. So there was a lot of things that I made him answer to that wasn't his thing. He wasn't supposed to answer to my parents making me their parent. He wasn't supposed to answer to, the competition that I was with my brother. He wasn't supposed to answer to me being sexually assaulted at 16. Like, that wasn't his thing, but I brought it in. So what I've done is I've literally dedicated my life to serving as the bridge between the caterpillar and the butterfly, because I had to do this thing on my own. But now I get to actually show people that me doing it on my own was a gift for me, because now I get to serve as a present for you and your present, and I get to do it with my king. So tell them what's up with you.
Man, peace. Thank y'all for the opportunity. It's a quick little nugget. Of course, my name is Willie Green, entrepreneur, teacher, you name it, jack of all trades when it comes to entrepreneur. But prestige is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by prestige is an illusion, it's just like the Queen said, the image, that was presented prior to came with a lot of stuff that the world just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with my mother yesterday, and as I was breaking down to her some of the things that I did, one thing that she said was, and my nickname is Trey, she said, Trey, I always saw you as perfect. And then I say, well, Mom, I'm not. Like, just like Mylira wasn't a product of her pain, it was like I'm a product, of my environment. And it took getting to 30 to start looking back over life and seeing how perception and image kind of guided me through life in a negative way. Even though it wasn't negative, it turned out to be for the good. But it's one of them things that if you don't know that you can make the change. And that, I would say, when it comes to facts, I know we're talking about facts, faith, action, culture, and what's the last one? T, truth, right?
Truth and solidarity.
Yeah, truth and solidarity. All of those things, like really what I've experienced over the past week encompasses each letter of your acronym. Because I have been up and down. It's been mountains and it's been valley lows just over the past week. Seeing family age, and then what that represents to my particular world. So kind of adjusting and catching up to 2020 when my mind has been so stuck in the 90s. And it's like in growing up, it's like my world has been shaken, but it's falling into a solid, foundation. So, I am owner of G Rolling Papers. I have my own rolling paper business. I'm a master networker, the G Bureau worldwide, life coach, soccer coach, you name it, I do it. But life has been crazy over this past week, and I think it's unique how this opportunity has presented. So thank y'all, for the opportunity so far.
Absolutely. I mean, please chime in if you have something you want to say. But I had a few things that I kind of took away from you guys' sharing just now. We talk a lot about trauma, and I know Mylira, we both have a similar background in social work, and we know, the impacts of generational traumas and how they present themselves and perpetuate as we grow older, right? Like all those childhood traumas, those ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences, all those things that kind of come that we are exposed to as kids. A lot of times, especially with the stigma that has been kind of shared in our own culture, our Black culture, about seeking services and health professionals to kind of address those traumas and things like that, or even the family wanting to keep things under wrap. I love the fact that you talk about how your marriage, through the traumas that you've gone through and through the trauma that you brought into the marriage, how with your king, you guys were able to work through those things, right? And so Cedric is an author as well of a few books, but one in particular, the Young Black Husband's Handbook. And he talks about, these similar pillars that we're talking about right now. And so I kind of want to hear from you all about, why is marriage so important? And how has your marriage and your union helped you, navigate through your traumas? Because a lot of times, like you said, unless you have a partner that you can be intimate, naked, and unashamed with, you're kind of always dealing with those traumas by yourself. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, what is the benefit and what's the blessing of having someone to work through those traumas with you?
I would say we became adults together. Like, we were kids when we got together. We reconnected my 20th birthday, and we got married right after I turned 21. I'm 27 now, he's 30. So when we came together, we had absolutely nothing besides childhood. Like, we never stayed on our own. We never had our own pot to piss in, none of that. So literally when we got together and we did premarital counseling, I remember our pastors, the one thing they said, y'all ready to be married. Like, we don't need to do a bunch of stuff with y'all. We just need to meet with y'all one time, because there's one important thing we want y'all to know, and that's do everything together. They said, in this day and time, and this is when everybody, especially here in the 757, a lot of couples, you had one spouse staying up in Northern Virginia, D.C. area during the week, and then they'll come home. And it was like, don't do that. They said, if he get a job in D.C., you get a job in D.C., or when you get money, it's not about having enough money to be married. You make the money together. So have your account together. So we had that conversation. But I would say the one thing that I love about me and the king is that we never stopped each other from growing. We acknowledged it. So if we realize, okay, hey, I'm kind of outgrowing you. Okay, let's have a conversation and see where I can pull you up, and vice versa. So there's times where I may have been advanced and he wasn't, but he came up with me. And then he may have been more advanced and I came up with him. But marriage for me is important, because I know people say that nobody's supposed to complete you. But if you really think about the Adam and Eve story, what was cool was 3 years before I was even thought about or accidentally conceived, God thought about me as he was creating him. That's how I see it. So there is a piece of him that has to complete me. Like, it's one of those things, like we do a bunch of cliches and then we try to live up to it and you wonder why marriages are falling apart. No, I want my spouse to know everything. I want my spouse to complete me, and I want him to be my best friend. So, like we tell people all the time, he say there was 2 moments in our marriage where he could have lost me. But that's because best friend stepped in, and best friend was like, yo, bro, you keep doing the same thing. Let's figure out where it come from. So it allowed for me to grow and who I am, where he's like kind of very black and white, and I'm real grayish. So I'm like everything loud and bubbly, and he's like, okay, it's either this way or that way. But we literally balanced each other out. So now the woman that you know today is a product of the marriage, because iron sharpened iron, and that's really what we did. So, yeah.
Sure.
Check this out. Cliches come from trauma.
Yeah.
It's the best way to deal with trauma that you can't handle. So it's like you tell yourself stuff to mentally move past. It's like a fight or flight. Mm-hmm. Kind of the symptom of fight or flight.
Yeah.
You know, fight or flight. And I know as social workers, you know, mental health, y'all understand that. You know, you deal with so much trauma, the brain will come up with stuff so it doesn't stay there. You know, you're able to move forward from it. So, you know, spouse is not completing you came from your spouse was never there.
Yeah.
You know, the spouse was doing, you know, everything in their power somewhat to get on the other spouse's nerves. So it's like, look, you make sure you have your own. Like, I know one big thing in the Black community, and I agree with it, and then I don't based on our bond, is the woman, as a woman, make sure you have your own money.
That Bama money.
Yeah, and I know where that comes from because there is no guarantee that the man was going to come home. And then the woman, I've heard plenty of stories of a woman moving with a man and then they get where they're going and he decided to do his own thing and she's out dry. You know, so a lot of what we hear comes from cliches, and the cliches come from trauma. One thing I'll say when it comes to marriage, I'm learning what marriage means. I'll put it that way. I can't say why marriage is important because up until a month ago, it wasn't. You know, and the queen can tell you that. Like, I've had some revelations that has put me in a place where it's like I see the value. And the reason I would say it wasn't at first is through my core values. I never saw a marriage work. And the ones that I did see work, they hated each other. So I can't tell you, at least right now, but I can tell you that I'm learning why marriage is important. Prior to, I couldn't tell you, it wasn't. And my actions, just like the queen said, you know, we grew up together. We established adulthood together. Prior to that, mentally, I was still in high school. So I was conducting myself like I was in high school, not knowing that I needed to grow up. So I'm bringing high school ways, you know, into being 24. And like she said, you know, I was wilding out. I was doing some dumb stuff. You know, she caught me twice. Like, I remember the first time we was watching a Family Guy, you know, downstairs on my phone, and then a text message came in. What did it say? Hey, baby.
Yep.
And boom, it was right there. So like I say, it's all out. Like, this is stuff that actually happened. And again, had Mylira not been who she is / was at the time, this wouldn't be here today. Because my mother tells me all the time, a lot of stuff I did, she would have left a long time ago. But that's real. That's real talking. Again, it kind of took for recently for my mom to say, Trey, I always thought you was perfect. I'm like, Mom, I was not like perfection. I was human. So that's kind of where it was, man. We had to grow up together, and if it weren't for her grace, what you see would not be what it is.
So just to chime in, like I there's a lot to unpack right there, right? So as I'm listening, you know, I hear a few different things, right? I hear that the idea of the paradigm, right? And then the shift in the paradigm. And then also kind of like the dichotomy of situation where you have, and it's me and Jamonte always talk about, you know, the interesting kind of oxymoronic representations in our own brands. Like, my brand is Ancient Baby, right? And his is talking about loving courageously or being courageously vulnerable, right? Which are two ends of a spectrum, right? They're two completely different things, but you put them together to make sense of a situation. So what I'm hearing from you all is that, you know, ultimately, on top of what you were saying about kind of putting away childish things, and the growing up aspect of it is that the two of you, in terms of completion, right? It's like a yin and yang type of syndication, right? So talk to us about, because I got the same thing, honestly, with my wife, like where I'm deficient, she's very strong. Like I'm not organized and I'm messy and all this stuff, but she, you know, she is able to keep me in line. And I told Jamonte, like, she's the best supervisor I ever had, right? So talk to people about, you know, how that dynamic, even how you recognized it, number one, and ultimately how it strengthened your bond together.
I would say, you know, when I got married to Willie, I didn't think that I was ever going to be married, you know? And I was at a place when I had met him, I was wilding out. So I had just got out of a serious relationship. So then I'm like, just anybody that want to talk to me, hey, let's talk, you know? But I didn't think it was going to get to marriage. So then when I got with him, it was more like, I'm again that child, that baby, just whatever you give me, you're going to give me. But then eventually it was like, but I want more. Like, why do I feel like I want more? Like, this not enough. We said I do, but there's something missing. And then I started being with myself like, okay, Mylira, what do you want? Like, what do you want in this marriage? You can't just say that it's okay because every time you go in a room and his drawers on the floor, you mad. Like, no, you gotta be with that. Like, every time you come home, it's like, yo, your feet stink. Like, we gotta talk about that. And that's how I had to do it. Like, I really had to be real with myself. What was my expectation? And the one thing I'll tell people, arguments start for two reasons. One, you don't meet somebody's unexpressed expectation. And then two, now because you ain't talked about that expectation, you expect for that person to change the feelings that came with them not meeting that unexpressed expectation. So it's a double whammy. So instead of doing that, we began to actually talk about what do we expect. And we have conversations. Like, I used to do 21 questions. He hated it. Now he didn't want to be asking 21 questions. But I used to be like, no, like, babe, for real, am I doing well? What am I doing well in the marriage? What can I strengthen? What's happening in the marriage? What's going on? So every night, even if we stress out with our little ones, which is why I was good with taking this today, but it was having that conversation at night. Like, what was something that went wrong? If it went wrong, we need to talk about it. We need to, you know, we've never had an argument. We've been together now it'll be 8 years in April, basically. And we've never, ever had an argument. Why? Because we realized we was two different people. And I think that's what helps us in our marriage. We realized Mylira is not Willie. Willie's not Mylira. My strengths cover his weaknesses and vice versa, but I can't expect him to be a carbon copy of me. So I gotta talk to him. He can't read my mind. So I think that's kind of how we've uncovered that yin and yang piece. What about you, Dave?
For me, I'll put it this way. I didn't know what comprised marriage. And what I mean by that is we got married. Cool. We're married now. Beyond that, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that life changes. Like, I didn't know as she was changing, I was going to have changes too. My father always told me, he said, son, make sure, you know, because women change. But one thing men don't talk about is men change too. So I was feeling changes. And there was a time I just wouldn't talk about it because in my mind, and again, it kind of goes back to she talked about expectations. If it weren't the same way that it always been, then it would be a problem. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm changing, but if I say I'm changing, then it's going to lead to an issue. Whereas change is a part of life. And you need to be able to express that. Kid, I would say, has kind of brought the biggest, like, motive to talk. That's brought the biggest, I guess, pressure to talk because kids bring up emotions that you did not know you had, especially if you have unresolved trauma. And I say that because your kids are you. You know, they're you when you're not thinking in your world. You know, the things that you express that you don't like, you might not see it because, again, fight or flight, but they see it clear as day. So, you know, when they're yelling at their sibling and you're mad at them for yelling at their sibling, yet you yell at them, it's like they don't know what else to do because that's what they see. That's what they know. So certain pieces had to come into play, honestly, before the switch went off in my brain. Right. There were just certain things. It wasn't anything that I was taught because nobody before me knew it. But after they lost it, they said, son, I know where you're going, and I lost it. Let me tell you what you lost. I don't know what it's like to experience it. It's almost like Moses going to the mountaintop with Joshua. It's like, look, I seen it. I can't go there with you, though. But let me tell you what's over there. And that's kind of what my experience was. You know, my grandfather, he passed in October. The reason him and my grandmother split, she stabbed him, you know, in the stomach, you know, in their 20s. You know, there's certain anger. You know, my father and my mother separated, you know, over some similar stuff. And then I'm realizing the pattern. And it's like, yo, I'm doing the same that my grandfather did, my father did. It's got to be something that I'm missing. And my father's like, think that, Trey. I've been telling you. I know what's on the other side. Listen to what I was saying. And that's kind of what it was to me. So, you know, just stories from a lot of the elders that kind of have a regretful life and they see the hope, you know, in us. And it's like, look, we know where y'all can go. Listen to what we got to say. We might have missed it, but y'all still got the opportunity. So.
Absolutely. I mean, you said a whole, yeah, that's facts, bro. Like, it's literally facts. Mic drop, right? You said a lot of things that, both of you all said a lot of things that kind of, it sums up for me in one word. Introspection. You know what I'm saying? I think like, it's kind of like the enlightenment. Like, you get enlightened, you have introspection, you begin to think, and that's where the trauma commences. It stops there, because when you are able to think in that realm, like kind of almost like an out of body experience, and you're just looking from the outside looking in, and you trace back, you know, you're able to kind of think about, okay, well, why is this pattern? Why is this thing happening? Or where is it coming from? Where is it stemming from? And that's when you can start healing, right? So me and Seth was talking a little briefly before you guys got on the call, and he was talking about how his in-laws are about to celebrate their 49th anniversary, right? And that's an amazing feat, and they're still going, right? And I think about, you know, when I got married, going on 4 years, going on 5 years next year. One of the things that I've kind of learned or gleaned to is the idea of kind of like it takes a village. Like, married couples also should have communion and talk to each other and share and go through those experiences in some ways. Not all, you know, always as intimate or as deep as letting everything out, but using them as a pillar or a resource to kind of get through certain trials and chapters in your marriage. Because, you know, his in-laws being married 49 years, they have how many years over you? That's 44 years over you, said, because y'all been married 5 years. That's 44 years of experience that they can say whenever y'all go through that struggle or that triumph or whatever you're going through at that moment, they've kind of either been through, they know how to get through it, or they know someone else who's gone through it as well. So what do you guys think about, like, having other married couples? Because I know a lot of people say, you know, what happens in your marriage stays in your marriage, you know, keep that in the house, don't know about it. So how do you guys feel about it? Like, what is your take on, you know, meeting and communing with other married couples, or do you feel that it's better to work in a silo?
So it's a catch-22, because me and the King, we build that community. It's actually called the Greenhouse Effect. So we have a community on Facebook. We plan to actually restart it because it's that same similar thing. When they realize, oh snap, we actually got to engage. Don't nobody want to engage, because it's that unspoken reality again, that what's going on in your marriage, you don't talk about it. So for us, we're becoming relationship coaches, because we do realize, okay, well, you might not tell a whole community, but if you can trust us, you can tell us, because we're going to give you the real. Like, yo, he almost lost me twice. I love him to life, but there's time where he get on my nerves. I get on his nerves. Kids and parenting, some days we feel like crap. Like, you know, we're able to actually give you that. But the other flip side of that is, for us personally, everybody learns from us. So our biggest issue that we had is the ones that we could go to look at, like my parents. My parents was married about, 20 years or so, and they're divorced now. So that's the reality we have. And then on his side of the family, nobody is still together. You know, and the only people that was his grandfather's deceased now. So for us, it's like, where do you go? And then because we got married so young, people can't see that we grew up. Like, we got married first. Out of all of our friends, I'm the youngest person alive when it comes to our friends. But we got married first. So they look at us for advice and all of that. So it's kind of like, you got to build your community. I really believe everybody talk about how God created your story before you got here on earth, but I look at it as he literally made you a puzzle, meaning that he gave you the pieces that he wanted you to have, but there was some that he kept to give to other people to kind of make you whole. We ain't found the other pieces yet. And sometimes that can be frustrating because, again, we're transparent. We don't say that we perfect and none of that. We want to have the house full of people. I know it's COVID, but hey, we want to have people coming over with their family and building a village, but everybody is scared to do that because it is that what happened in this house stays in this house, especially in the Black community. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not saying women ain't cheat, but men were Rolling Stones. And where did that come from? Honestly, it's because we had that one law, the man in the house rule, where once Black people started getting on Section 8, the president at the time was like, oh, no, bruh. No, that's not happening. So he made a no man in the house rule. So then now you got these caseworkers or social workers, which is why people hate social workers when I say I'm a social worker, but they will go at midnight at night just to catch a man in the house. If they saw a pair of shoes, if they saw a man robe, if they saw a shirt, a t-shirt, guess what? You and your family was losing your house. So then guess what the man did? Well, because I know that they saw baby mama number 1 last week, they're not going to see her till next month. So I'm going to go stay with baby mama number 1. Okay, they made their round. I'm going to go to baby mama number 2. And then now we have all this drama, and then there is no marriages happening. So then it's like, okay, well, where do you go? Where do you trust? And then the people that you do have that is of a higher generation, they don't understand our generation. Like, we're way far ahead of where my parents were when we were our age. We own a house. My parents didn't own a house till I was in 7th grade. My kids is 1 and 4, and we've owned a home now for almost 4 years. You know? So it's like, where do you go? So the only advice that I really can say for real is ask, and you will be given it.
You gotta manifest it.
Yeah.
You gotta manifest, and what I mean by that, I say the Goldsons, right?
Yep.
They've been a blessing, to us. Been married forever.
Yeah.
And I
like
say that as
years.
a joke, but legit, she would tell you, like, since her preteen years, they've been together. Like, that's been the only person she was with. And that was a manifestation of them. Like, there's no way we would know them prior to however we connected. We've done marriage counseling before. We've worked with couples. Some made it, some haven't. Again, you're dealing with the pandemic right now. People don't come out. So we do our best to connect, virtually. But like you say, me and Lyra, we honestly, I ain't gonna say we're real, but we get straight to the point. And I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of people don't want to get straight to the point because it's gonna bring up the stuff that honestly they don't want to talk about, because if they talk about it, it's gonna bring attention to where that house is right now. Yeah. But that's only gonna hold but so long. It's like shaking up a bottle of soda. Eventually that joint's gonna pop open, with all the pressure, because one thing we've realized is, as humans, we might be able to fool others, but we can't fool ourselves. Mm-hmm. If you can't fool yourself and there's things that are being done that honestly gets under your skin, you might think you're masking it, but your arms start to twitch and you don't realize it. Your eye jumps. It's stuff that your spouse sees, and it's like, yo, I know you better than you know yourself. You're not good right now. But in your mind, I'm good. I'm good, but then you storm off. You walk off. And people want to preserve not having those moments. Not saying that we got to respect it, but you can't force people to be open. Yeah. I can't, a lot of people won't say, before they got married, I dealt with escorts, prostitution. The first time I walked into a hotel room with an escort, the girl had a 9mm to my chest. Like my first time. That's traumatic. And me being dumb at the time, I'm like, I don't know what happened before, but I've already paid you. Let me do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to leave you alone. I brought that in, and Mylira's like, yo, who is this texting you? Why am I going through your Facebook Messenger? And I see you reaching out to these people, and a lot of men are not going to fess up, own up, admit, that this is what's going on. Not to keep in mind I'm in the church at the time.
Yep.
Youth minister, traveling youth minister. You know, so it comes that time where you can be real. And when you are real, you manifest real.
Yeah.
But then you honestly only manifest where your level is. And so people are going to keep bringing in stuff that really don't suit them.
Yeah.
It's all in how you think. It's like you say, the introspective. It's all in how you think. If you want to do better, better will come.
Yeah.
If you want to stay stagnant connections will continue to manifest.
So we do the best we can. So
Yeah.
like 2 Saturdays ago, we had the Greenhouse Effect presented the Make It Last Forever Volume 1. We're going to have another one in February, but it's just a relationship panel discussion. And what was dope was it wasn't just 2 married couples. So we had a married couple that's been married for 30 plus years. They were together since they was like 13. And then you got us that's been married in, like I said, almost 7 years. And then we had 2 divorcees that was, you know, single and in relationships. So they can speak to 2 aspects of relationships. So we try to do our best because, again, you need that support. You can make it last forever. Like my husband said, you know, he brought his trauma in, but because we knew each other and I realized, okay, that's not you, that's trauma. Let's sit down and talk about it. And I looked them in the face like, either I'm going to be temporary, I'm going to be permanent. Like, I'm a boss, so I can take my daughter with me because I ain't have my son. I will take us and we good and I will still love you, no love lost, but you got to figure that out. If you don't have a strong person like that, then you need to be around other couples that can call your stuff out. If you don't have that, you're not going to be successful. And divorce is easier than staying together.
Facts. Facts. I mean, so y'all talking heavy. Talk heavy, but nah. I mean, for me, I'm looking at it. You know, and I'm taking everything that you're saying right now, and I'm hearing a lot of different pieces that some of the stuff that me and Jamonte have actually touched on in prior episodes. Of course, talking about trauma. You know, his work there, and you know, with us both. You know, we know each other because we came into actually education and teaching together. So, you know, we've seen that at that level, you know, at the elementary school level, and which led us to actually doing the Young Black Husband's Handbook, in which Jamonte wrote the foreword, which is awesome. But in that book, we touch on a lot of different stuff, and some of it is more so historical. And my question is, in many cases, like in our culture, right, if we're talking about Black people in America, right, at this point, at this stage in life, in society, we see a lot of the overlap of historical ramifications and our current quote unquote culture, right? So to you all, in your experience, where do you see those two overlapping, where it's like the state of our culture and who we are right now, right? The divorce rates, the lack of marriage, right? Many of us saying, you know, I'm a product of my environment. I know personally, you know, being married, like I didn't really see that growing up. So, you know, what it meant to be a husband was like, you know, it's trial and error, right? Trying to figure it out because I really don't necessarily have all the examples laid out in front of me to follow, right? There's no blueprint. So for you all, where do those things overlap, where it's going back to what you were saying about Section 8 and, you know, the historical ramifications that removed us from the house, and then now leading into the culture where, you know, our Black men are just kind of out here trying to figure it out. And, you know, we are basically labeled, you know, as womanizers and all these things. Where do you see the overlap happen? You know, is it a certain point in time, or is there a certain, you know, was there a shift where we just adapted that? Like, what do you all attribute to that?
I would say it kind of goes back to how we are in school. You know, I'll give you this. I know I'm from Africa because my father told me, but I have no trace to Africa simply because both grandfathers don't know their biological father on my side. So honesty comes from storytelling. And the reason I say that, you get by with the best you do. There comes a point in time where, okay, I've heard the same story over and over, but there's something more. There's got to be something more. It comes to that point of opportunity and preparation. That's where you equal your success. you got to be prepared. And what I mean by prepared is, again, you got to have the right community. It goes back to having the village. I've never seen anybody successfully do anything on their own. And what I mean by success, it's easy to make money by yourself, but you won't be successful doing that by yourself. There's no success actually attached to it. The overlap out, again, because I'll even come at you and not in a combative, but I've also seen a great influx of men being great fathers too now. I've seen more husbands now than I've seen in the time when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. I've seen more active fathers. So there is a shift. There is a change. And I guess now my question is, what are they seeing that the ones that aren't getting it? And my queen gonna take it from there. Yeah.
So here's the issue. Black people are looking for an apology.
Yeah.
And because we're looking for an apology, until we get it, the only stories that we're telling is to make the people that we're looking to apologize to us feel bad. So the stories that we continue to tell is, well, when my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather impregnated my grandma, they came and raped him and emasculated him in front of him and his kids, and then they sold him off. So then our family was never going to happen. Okay, so we tell them that story so that they can feel bad about tearing our families up. Oh, or the mom, they went in and raped the mom, and then now that's how you got light-skinned people, and I don't like light-skinned people because they the master's kids. We tell that story. But don't nobody tell the story about the true love, about the man that kept running away from the other place to come back to come talk to his wife. We don't tell that. We don't glorify those good stories. We don't glorify the good masters. And I'm kind of biased because my family is rich in that history. Further down the line, my grandma was actually married to a master. So he had his black wife and he had his white wife. White wife knew that he was going to stay with black wife on weekend, and they stayed in Cape Charles. And my grandmother loved this man. So we know of the good stories, but nobody talks about that. It's, again, kind of that victim that wants that apology from that person. So we're going to pull from the worst of the worst. So if you only hear this bad story, you're going to live it out. So it kind of goes back to the man in the house rule. Like, that's all you hear. You hear Papa was a Rolling Stone. Hell, listen to the music that we got. You know, none of black music is actually positive. Like, let's be real. It points out the negative of our community. So you are what you hear. You are what you read. You are what you see. And if the only thing we continue to put out there is for the white man to say, I'm sorry to you finally, then that's the story that we're going to live out. Nobody talking about the positive of marriage. Even when you turn on TV, the only marriage they want to show is Married at First Sight, and then they divorce within less than a year. Like, that's the stuff that we seeing. You seeing Bachelor, and then by the time they get engaged, they ain't married anyway. Like, it's a whole hot mess. So it's all about the image that you portray, and the only reason why black fathers are standing up now is because you had My Wife and Kids during our years. You had Everybody Hate Chris. We had TV show. You had Family Matters and all that. But our parents weren't looking at that stuff. Why? Because I'm so pissed off at what Granddaddy did. So I'm going to end up doing what Granddaddy did because I'm focused on how mad I am at what he did. Our generation is saying, I don't need no apology. Bump your apology. I'm black. I'm proud. And I'm good. And I think that's where the change is coming at, where we're not looking for an apology. Where my father-in-law would say to this day, everything the white man fault. Nah, bruh, it's your fault. You ain't paying bills. You ain't doing this. When are you going to change? So I honestly feel like that's where it comes from. We got to change the story so that we can change the fabric of our marriages.
Nice. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of that, I'm trying. I told you, y'all, you hit me hard. But now, like, a lot of that, you know, what I hear is a lot of the stuff that we have common conversations about all the time, right? Things like representation matters, right? And not just in the hashtag sense, but it's like, it really does matter. Like, what you see, what you ingest on a regular basis, ultimately is going to become, as we were talking about before, a manifestation of your reality, right? The seeds that you plant are going to grow, right? It's up to you what seeds those are, right? You can choose bell pepper, or you can choose carrot, but it's going to grow. Something's going to happen, right? So I'm just thinking about it from the lens more so of, you know, thinking about the idea of shifting the narrative, right? So And Jamonte, feel free to chime in because I know, both of us as husbands, as young Black men, as educators, all these things, these are things that we combat on a daily basis, right?
Facts.
I had a good brother and coworker that I used to work with. He would always say, I just look like this, right? Like he, Black man, started out teaching in Atlanta, and he was into tennis and all different things, golf. But at first glance, as we always know, you always kind of get, that outside like side eye, in terms of who we are, right? The expectation is not what it should be, right? The expectation is not, college graduate, professional, entrepreneur. It's always, the bar is always lower, right? So, in I guess your experience, or can you talk to the idea of representation in terms of marriage, Black marriage, right? And also that bar of expectations and how, because you mentioned like the TV shows and things like that we're seeing now. How do we, as successfully Black married couples, right? Myself, my wife, Jamonte, Kenesha, the two of you all, how do we continue to push the envelope and raise the bar, in our circles? How do we expand that growth?
By doing stuff like this, having those groups and not stopping. We go live almost every day if we can on Facebook, and it's both of us. Like, even though we both got our own stuff, we do it together. Like, I give you a prime example. I'm a whole certified substance abuse counselor, right? But my husband sells rolling papers. And it got to a point where it was like, okay, Mylira, you need to sit back. Like, why are you tripping? It ain't like he's selling the stuff. He's just selling the rolling papers. But I was honest with that. That's the thing. Like, I think the issue is people are afraid to be honest because we don't want another broken Black family. We don't want to be another statistic. I don't care about being no statistic. Honey, I'm Mylira Green, and that's is what it is. Like, this is my marriage. This is what it looks like. So I feel like when we can be true to ourselves and not trying to hide who we are, and creating platforms like this and doing relationship panels and putting it out there, taking pictures with your family. Like, we had a whole branding photo shoot before we got on with y'all. That's why my makeup is done, But we took them together because it's like, yo, I may have my separate business. You may have your separate business, but trust and believe that money that it hit is our account. It's not a Mylira. I ain't got no Bama money, and I know my family mad. My husband ain't going nowhere till he dead, so I don't need no Bama money, But when you have that mindset, you just provide it, have family over, talk to people. That's the only really thing that I can think of is when they begin to see it. That's how you shift it. Like, I don't even think it's a actual calculation that you can do. Just be happily married and show that.
I would say, it's elevating your thoughts too. And what I mean by elevating the thoughts, it's almost like there's a caste system in thinking. A lot of times we like to break things down racially, right? But there comes a time where it's the way that you think is really what's going on. I can give you an example. The first time I was pulled over, I was 11. Like, it was me and my mom. My mom was pulled over. Cop came over, had a gun already pointed at me. I didn't know what was going on. But if I fast forward to 2020, again, G Rolling Papers is up and running. Guess who my investor is that's spending $2,000? The white guy. You would think, his image is not your typical business white guy either. But it's just like probably ride motorcycles, all that. And he say, Willie, I know you. I see you. I see how you move. That's something I want to be connected to. I say that because I've been looked at side-eyed from Black people, white people, Asians, Hispanics. And I've also been looked at as, yo, this dude know what he's talking about from white people, Black people, Asians, and Hispanics. So unfortunately, it's just like we talked about, it's what you highlight. Unfortunately, you get the highlights of the police killings. You get the highlights of the mass incarcerations. But I probably can't pay Wavy TV 10 enough to tell them that, a white guy put $2,000 and establish my LLC for nothing in return. I probably can't pay them to put that out there. You know, I can't pay them that our very first actual photo shoot, the very first one, by a white girl, white lady. In fact, our first 2 professional photo shoots, the very first one was free of charge. You know, those photos are still circulating. You know, so it goes to the way you think. I think you honestly have to grow the way that you think, because if you continue to stay at that low level, you'll continue to have the people thinking that such and such is better or this group is better. You'll look at the history, but you won't look at the good history. Like you say, you honestly will tune out what you want. It's like a little kid. You hear what you want to hear. You'll tune out what you want to hear, tune out in order to make the point that you want to make.
Selective.
Regardless of what level of the argument you on when you're writing a research paper, you're going to find some research to prove your point.
That's going to agree with your, yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
And I can say this, I think that's honestly what makes a lot of people upset, a lot of people mad, and it's because they haven't reached that level of thinking yet. So it's almost like you're better than them, but the reality is you just don't have the time for the negative energy no more. Like, I've reached a point where being negative don't make me feel good. Like, it literally makes me feel bad being negative. Whereas at one point, I could debate the best of them. You know, but now it's like, yo, what is this even for? Like, I don't have time. Like, somebody just purchased 500 roller paper. I don't have time to argue with you, you know, on whether the first president of the United States is black. I can't do it no more. Like, I have other things that are more important.
Yeah.
So it comes that point in time, you know, where it's just honestly what you give your energy to. So,
Man, y'all, that right there, I mean, I got to chime in, right? So a lot of what you're saying right now, a lot of what both of you all are saying right now is something that I've kind of been battling with for a little while. And I talked to Sid and a few other people about it, but like the reason why Courageously Vulnerable even came about is because I saw so much hate, tension, and one-sidedness and everything going on in the world. And also I think about how everything that we have been learned and taught in our lives from childhood to now has been something that's been ascribed to us through the projections of the world. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's socially constructed, all those things that kind of come about, what's accepted on social media, what's not accepted on social media, what's shown on TV, what's listened to on the radio, all these things are projections. They're just projections. And none of these things are real. But we take them as real. We take them as truth. We take them as, 100% gold. And when we take them that way without even diving in or digging in to really see like what it's really about, we kind of become this ignorant society of just accepting things. And then because these things are all fallacies anyway, we're always debating and arguing and at each other's throats about these fallacies because there's no truth in them. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to argue with the truth because the truth is just simply that, the truth. Mm-hmm. But because we're in a world of so many fallacies, we found ourselves always trying to be right. And now it's not even about being right. It's about being accepted, right? So, it could be something that's blatantly wrong. But because some popular celebrity said that this was right, everyone else is going to want to be on the wrong side of right because they are being accepted by it. And so when you guys said you had to elevate above it, it just really resonated with me because we don't have to be up in arms about everything. Because like you said, the stories and the teachings and the things that you just shared with us aren't being shared in the public eye as everything else is being shared. Mm-hmm. I can't flip through TV. Matter of fact, you look at I don't even have a TV. We just moved here to Texas. I don't even have a TV in my house yet. Because I'm just like, I don't even need it. It's been 6 months. I'm kind of good. I don't even miss the TV. Because nothing on there is going to be anything that's going to be fruitful to my life. Right? And so I just wanted to take that time to kind of applaud you all for having that level of thinking to where, you don't allow what the social norms or constructs that have been placed upon us to be your own reality, and you're fighting against it, kind of going against what Seth is saying. Like, how do we have that representation? How do we elevate the status quo and change that whole idea of what a Black young married couple looks like? And it's forever evolving. It's forever evolving. Just like parenthood is forever evolving. I can't look at my parents no different than you could. No one could look at their parents because there was no real book. Like even if there is a book, there's just a book that's theoretical in nature and not actual a representative of what you are actually going through, right? And so to kind of like wrap all those things up, because I know you guys gotta still do things as well. You had you're on a journey right now, Mylira, and you've been on this journey and said I want to share, like, you gotta follow each other on Facebook, man. But like every day she's doing the 4 agreements. Every day she's got the Les Brown motivations. Every day she's like having engagement posts. Every day she's out there, man. She got a Grant Cardone 10X rule going on. She's everywhere now. You can't not see her. And so one thing that I've been following along lately has been her journey to her new self, or to her current self, to the self that she's at right now. And Mylira, I think it would be remiss if we didn't kind of like allow you to share that with the world, because like that is, you're doing it. You're doing it. I'm proud of you. I know everyone's proud of you that's seeing it, and man, it's incredible. So let's go ahead and share a little bit about, your journey to everything right now.
Awesome. So it kind of goes back to the trauma that I was explaining to you guys. And I grew up with the core belief that the only thing that I can give was my body. But my body was always this heavy set little girl. So I remember being 13, and back in the day, they made us get physicals for gym. I don't know why, because we had one before we got to school, but they made us do another one. So we got on, and I had to get on the scale, and my gym teacher was like, okay, wait a minute, get off the scale. And I was like, huh? So then she said, get back on the scale. I said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So I got back on the scale. We do this about 3-4 times. The last time, she went past 200, and I remember her looking at me like she saw a ghost or something. And she was like, did you know you weigh 215? Like, you don't look like it, but you weigh 215. It wasn't even the fact that I weighed 215. I already knew I was kind of like a hefty little girl, but it was the way she said it. So up until probably like a month ago, I had this core belief in my mind that's been planted that my size is bad. So even though right now I'm like 145 pounds shy of what I was last year, I still kept making new goals. So my first goal was, okay, I just want to get to 215, because now if I beat 215, I can't hear that in my mind no more. So I was like, okay, well, I want to get to 199, because then I want to get under 200. And I was like, oh, I want to get to 180. When I got to 180, I was like, okay, I want to get to 160. Now I'm like 160 something. But I share that to say, until you deal with your core beliefs, you're going to continue to keep chasing stuff, and you're not going to see where you've made it. So I post a lot of those quotes every day, because when I was 16, I was diagnosed with major depression and anxiety. I mastered the PHQ-9, which is our patient health questionnaire, just to see, are you suicidal or are you not? But I'm kind of biased against that, because I took it every week because they said I had hypertension, which I did. So they did twofold. I went to go ahead and get my little pressure check, and then I had to take the test. So eventually I knew you were going to ask me, do I want to kill myself? I'm going to tell you no, but I absolutely do. So because of that, and the combination with how I view myself and everything, I've literally become what I needed growing up. And it's nothing against my parents. I came from an excellent family. I love my mom and my dad. They gave me what they knew to give me. They gave me what they had. But it wasn't what I needed. But it don't make them bad parents. So because of that, I've literally gone on a journey of finding out that I'm enough. That I don't need to do anything more or nothing less. I am enough just because I'm Mylira, because of the breath that's in my body. And that is what my purpose is, to get other people to see that they are enough as well. So if I need to post the same quote today, I'm going to get the right things done, so that one person that ain't seen it before get to see it and they get the right things done today. I made my point. If I say, you don't have to be great to get started, but you got to get started to be great by Les Brown every day, and you don't see it until that one day, then hey, go ahead, get your behind up and get started. Like Mylira used to never work out. Now my husband can tell you I do Euro trainer like Terry Crews now, but it's not even about the physical body. It's about when you holistically change. It takes a holistic change. It can't just be one area. You can't just work out one arm and say, oh, I'm working out. The other joint gonna be limp as a pump, and then the other one gonna be real strong. That doesn't work. So I literally went on a full, complete journey. Some of it's been spiritual, majority of it honestly has been spiritual. So real quick, 5 years ago, we both ministers in the church. He licensed ordained, I'm licensed. We preaching every Sunday. And then one day we said, screw this, bump this. I don't believe in none of it. So then we went on this whole complete journey, and I can list all the religions that we went through. Hebrew Israelite, kinetic science, atheist at one point, pantheist, Buddhist, whatever it was, we was doing it. And now we realize God was like, yo, I was in all of that. I don't need to be in a religion. I created you. I was in all of it. So now that I'm spiritually inclined and mentally I can get myself together. All right, Mylira, you still don't love yourself because mentally you're bullying yourself. So you got to change some core beliefs. You got to do some work. And that's why I became a therapist, because when I'm doing therapy, I'm therapizing my own self. Like sometimes I fall out and be like, oh, that was for me. Thank you. You know, and then you got to deal with your emotions. You got to be real with how you feel. I tell people all the time, you know, and even I do this with my kids. If our kids throw a temper tantrum, anything other than happy, we want to change it. Why you sad for? You got food, shelter, water. I'm here. What you crying for? I need you to come out. You know, we constantly trying to change it. So then you grow up as an adult, emotionless. And then you wonder why the only thing you got is anger because you ain't dealt with nothing else. So I had to deal with that. Then socially, all that. So literally, I've been on a journey. But what I've learned is everything I've been through has been a gift that has been packaged for me to give to other people. So that's how I live my life. Like the stuff that y'all see, and as you were introducing me, Jamonte, I'm like, okay, bro, I hear you, but I'm just Mylira, you know, and I'm working on that because I had to tell my husband a part of it comes from, as we're growing up, you weren't supposed to be special. Think about it. If you played a sport or something, everybody got a certificate. You ain't had no most valuable player when you was a little kid because they wanted everybody to feel special. So then what happens is as an adult, you may have all these accolades. I'm 27, I'm Black, I'm a therapist of military personnel that's been in the military longer than me. That's something to be excited about, you know? But I struggle with that. And that's why I tell people, that's why I love what I do, because I can tell you, I still struggle. Depression still sometimes knock at my door and I'm like, hey, girlfriend, all right, you can come in for 1 minute. I'm going to acknowledge you, but then you can get out because I'm done, you know? But that's what makes it real, and that's what makes us work, because I'm not afraid to say, yo, I ain't got it all together, but the life that I live allow me to be there for somebody else that don't got it together at all, you know? So that's a little bit of my journey.
I appreciate you showing. Go ahead, Doc.
No, that's powerful stuff, man. I mean, because I think that we all would benefit from understanding and knowing that, you know, we are not at that complete apex of like who we are or who we're going to be, right? It's amazing to consider, you know, even with accolades, right? Like, you know, we got degrees and all kinds of things, but you know, even going back into, you know, talking about your businesses, like I'm pretty sure, you know, you haven't met the highest or, you know, supreme goal of what your business is, right? So, you know, every day it's like some people, you know, and it's I think it's all about perspective too. Like somebody from the outside looking in might be like, man, you make $2,000 this week or this month off of selling rolling papers. Like, what? You're good. Like, and you like, nah, that's not, you know what I mean? That's not the end all be all. Like, this is wonderful, right? And you acknowledge that, but at the end of the day, you know, we all, you know, humility is a powerful thing. And, you know, we all have to go through it, but we also have to, you know, to your point, Mylira, you know, we can't mistake humility for just like putting things aside, right? Like, it's cool to be like, you know, I got it, it's cool. But it's another thing to be like, I'm just me.
Somebody had this joint this week and they said, don't allow humility to serve as your prison from you seeing how great you are.
Exactly.
And I've been living in a prison for 27 years of my life, and I'm 27 because of my humility, because I didn't want it to acknowledge how great I am. But no more. Like, I'm still going to be humble. I'm not going to dangle it in front of your face and say, you can't get this. No, I'm saying, this is who I am. Let me help you get there. Right. If you want to. You might not want to, and that's cool. So let's walk together, because there may be somebody else that want to do what you want to do. So please, whoever's watching this, that may be the only nugget you take. Don't allow your humility to serve as a prison that's keeping you from seeing how great you are.
Yeah. Man, facts. And to that point too, like, I think it's okay for you know, every now and then to throw out a slight flex. Like, it, you know, I think people need to see it, you know, but I think going back to Jamonte's point, with talking about like the fallacy of it, don't go so far as to overextend and say, look what I got. And you might not necessarily even have all that, or, whatever the case is, or, also just like flaunt and throw things in people's faces, because that's going to leave a sour taste in people's mouth as well. And then if you're trying to genuinely help somebody, they might look at you and say, nah, you're just trying to benefit yourself, right? You're just trying to do what makes you feel good. But if you come at it from a humility standpoint and still have a little bit of that air of, I am, right? And you can be too, then I think people will take to it as well. And I think, what you both are doing, especially with couples in our community, by doing that and setting that example, and then also being very open and transparent about your own shortcomings and past and present and hopeful futures. Like, I think that's what it's all about, ultimately just being, in image, right? Projecting your own narrative, and in which case it will ultimately, influence and hopefully inspire other people to write their own narrative, right? Like as an author, I'm sure, when you're writing from your perspective, right? You're writing what what you believe, and you're also writing things that are going to be beneficial to anybody who comes across it. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to apply it, right, in the same exact way that you did. I might take your words and, apply it to, a business or my parenting or whatever. Somebody else might take it and apply it to their teaching. But it's, all of it is applicable in some capacity. And I think that's what we got to realize. And I think, ultimately, for anybody who's watching this, I hope that they can take something away, because you all gave us some jewels, man. Like,
beautiful.
I mean, I'm gonna have to rewind this and and rewatch it, and I'm gonna have to loop it in the car. And it's just, I really appreciate everything that you've given. And Jamonte, thank you for making this connection and bringing these wonderful folks on to the show. And I really I hope and wish all the best for you. And I really commend you both for all the work that you're doing and all the work that I know you will do in the future, because they say the sky's the limit, but I think you can go higher than that.
Absolutely.
and I believe that you all will do that for sure. And I hope that when you make it to that mountaintop, like, I hope I'm there to just see it and say, hey, I talked to them one time, so I really appreciate it. Thank y'all for being here, man.
I commend y'all, man. I love y'all for y'all transparency, y'all boldness, y'all authenticity. I think it's needed, man. I know it's needed. So I appreciate you all on such short notice. Like, we were just talking about this in a Facebook message like 2 or 3 days ago. And then we was getting on our call today. And we was like, you know what? Dang it. Like, let's see if she's available. And like, I believe the world conspires to help you, right? Like it does. The energy is there. And so, you guys saw fit to stop what you guys are doing in the car, like making no excuses and getting it done. So I thank you, King and Queen, for being flexible, for being available, for being your true selves unapologetically, and giving of your own truth to the world. We started doing these podcasts because we believe that these conversations shouldn't just stop here. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't just stop with us in this little circle in this time. It should be shared with the world, because like you said, someone going to click on YouTube, someone going to check out this podcast on the Google Podcast or iPod or whatever, and it's going to bless their lives. It's going to change their lives. And so that's why we're just so thankful for you both. Imagine
if we didn't record this.
Yeah, dog. If we didn't record it, I would be blown right now. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm recording. It's okay.
All right, good. If we have forgot.
I'm just saying in general, because to Jamonte's point, like, we would have many conversations, and then we would get off the call or get off the phone with each other, and then it'd be like, okay, it just subsides, right? Like, it doesn't, like, this has a legacy, if you will. Like, it'll live on. You know what I mean? So it's the idea that you can reach out, without and touch people that you have never even met, you don't know, right? And something that your message and what you're given to the world can continue to flow, right? And to Willie's point, like, we talk a little bit about before what you were saying as far as doing something and making it makes you feel good, right? Like, doing good makes me feel good. Doing something that doesn't make me feel good, you know what I mean? Whatever, negative makes me feel bad. But the idea there, if you want to break it down even like scientifically, is with energy. Like, energy transfers, right? It does. You can't destroy it, and you can't create it, right? It continues to flow from one vessel to the other. So with this, and what our hopes are for, the show, is as people click on it and check it out, they will receive the energy, hopefully through their computer screen or phone or whatever, and be able to pass it on and pay it forward. So again, thank you very much for being here, taking the time to talk to us. And I look forward to possibly even following up with you all at a later point, and continuing to see what you got going on and growing this community for sure.
Y'all want to take this time to just share anything you got going on, any engagements, any way people can follow you, get a hold of you, get in contact with you?
Okay, absolutely. So I am Mylira Green. Hopefully, I believe I'm the only Mylira Green. I think so. I Google me a lot, and not even vainly, just to make sure nobody's putting any bad reviews out there. But you can follow me on Facebook, Mylira Green. But as far as my business is M Green Enterprises LLC. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. And as far as upcoming events coming, I do so much, so the best thing to do is just to follow my Facebook. But on January the 23rd, I am doing the Life or Death What Now retreat. And what it is a healing retreat so that you can learn the importance of knowing your identity. Once you know your identity, being confident enough to walk in it. And once you actually build that confidence, how can you maintain it without having that mask on? So that's going to be on January 23rd, and you can find it on my Facebook page as well. And you can register for that. That's the biggest thing that is coming up right now. I'm working on a life coaching package for women. For that you can know that you are enough and that you can get to the next level. It is going to be about a 6-month program. The cost of it is going to be $444. If anybody know me, everything is $444, so go ahead and get your money right for that. It's going to be on a group capacity, because one thing I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to leave it, I promise, is I refuse to build a legacy for my kids that when they're 18 and I pass it to them, they look at me and say, "Who are you?" So I make sure that I am a good steward of my time. So I am not doing anything individual right now, but I am going to be doing some group stuff. And we got some relationship stuff going on, but I'll let the king take over so that we can get out.
Yeah. Again, my name is Willie Green, the third. If you find me looking for me via Facebook, Instagram is WL Green, third, stop with the 3 I's. So Facebook, Instagram. You can also connect with the G Bureau Worldwide. That is my networking group. Literally hundreds of business owners, entrepreneurs, artists. Anything you can think of is there. Real estate agents, so on and so forth. That's on Facebook as well. Again, I'm the owner of G Rolling Papers. I just went retail. So if you are listening and you want a Black-owned rolling paper, reach out.
Your convenience store, or your store.
Right. And understand the energy that I put into this, whoever uses it, I put out that you create a masterpiece utilizing it. I know smoking can oftentimes lead to some negative things, but my mind behind this is if you're going to use this, I'm going to uplift you, I'm going to build you up. So as you're utilizing it, you're going to ascend and not, decline. And I'm also in the process of releasing my first poetry, EP. It's not named yet, don't have a release date yet, but I'm in the process, just getting somewhere to record it. So that'll be coming out as well. And then, of course, being a life coach, mentor. Queen is doing it on a group scale. I do actually have the time, ability to do it on an individual scale. So anybody, looking for a life coach and you just want somebody real, honest and real and can show you how to get, past some of the stuff that you might be wrestling with. I can guarantee you I've been there, done it. So reach out, man. And we here to build. We here to share love. Like at the end of the day, we here to share love, man. There's a lot of hurt in the world. So we just 2 avatars is looking to bring some life and love to your life. So that's us.
Facts, man. Facts. Well, you have heard it here first, folks. We are wrapping up with this episode of Facts. That's Facts. That's faith, action, culture, truth, and solidarity. We have the lovely Greens, and we have Mr. Scott here. We're going to tune out next time. It's been a pleasure for you all to follow us. Continue to drop feedback, comments, and like and subscribe so that we can continue to spread the word with others who are waiting to hear. Love you. God bless.
Peace and love.
Just continue to push forward, continue to know that you have purpose, and continue to fulfill your dreams and your passions, and everything else will fall into place.